Hi everyone. So based on the chaos here behind me, I haven't done all that much organizing. I've actually made a bigger mess, but that's okay because on today's episode of Northern Outlier, I'm going to be finishing off the air sealing in the garage and we're going to deal with this chaos. So make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. Stay tuned and enjoy. So I've already gone ahead and I've pulled everything away from this wall. I did leave the workbench because I need a place to work and I haven't built my new workbenches. That's coming soon though. So I pulled the bottom off, so I'm gonna have to crawl in underneath the workbench to seal that part up. But I moved the wood pile and created a lot more chaos in here, so I'll be glad to get this done. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull the trim. So I'm just using the trusty pry bar. I'm gonna go ahead and pry this off. It should come off super easily. So the next thing we're going to do is shop vac. So we're just going to go along, clean it up before we do any caulking. We just want to make sure it's nice and clean before we put any of that down. So let's get to it. So I went ahead and pulled this OSB off strictly because there's these spots down here. There's like 4 of them along this wall. It's like a metal, I don't know what it is, some kind of a support thing or something, but it needs to be filled in. So I'm going to use some backer rod to fill it in, but to get access to it, I had to pull the OSB. So what I'm going to do now is just tape up where the staples were, where there was some holes in the vapor barrier, and then also seal up along the bottom. There is a little bit of rot on the sill plate I've noticed, but I'm just going to leave it. I think all the work I've done on the outside should solve the water issue, so it shouldn't be rotting anymore. So we're going to go ahead and tape this up, make sure the vapor barrier is good to go, and then we can start filling in those holes. So before I tape the bottom, there's 2 of those holes down here. I'll show you a close-up of those metal things that are kind of, I don't know, some kind of supports, but there's basically a full gap underneath, so I need to fill that. So I'm just using a 1/2-inch backer rod. I'm just kind of cutting it to length using a flathead screwdriver and just sticking it in. Okay, so I got the backer rod installed. This is backer rod here. This is thinner stuff. I think it's 1/4 inch. I was using 1/2 inch because those gaps, those holes were quite big. But this stuff is great. So if you've got a similar situation, use this stuff, push it in there with a screwdriver. It takes up the space and it saves you from having to use a whole bunch of sealant or caulk. So I think it's actually called caulk saver as well. But anyways, we've got the holes filled. So now we're going to go ahead and put our sealant in. Okay, so I got those holes filled. I'm using DAP Dynaflex 230 sealant. Stuff I was using there was a brown color. This is gray. I didn't really care what color it was. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Anyways, now that we got those holes filled, I'm gonna just run along and do the bottom of the mud sill, and just kind of where there's a little bit of a crack, just put a bead sealant on that, and then we'll just let it dry. So this stuff takes, to fully cure, it takes 7 to 14 days. I don't know if I'm gonna wait that long to put the trim back on, but we'll see. So we'll get this next bead on, and then all we have to do is let it dry. Okay, so it's another day. Last night we worked on kind of the bottom edge here, just getting the holes filled, getting some of that sealant down. It is almost done, and I've gone and pulled the trim around the window behind me. So what we're gonna do now is clean that up, get out another tube of sealant, and start going around doing the window and then finishing up this bottom edge. So now that we have that window cleaned up, we can start with the ceiling. So I'm on my last tube. I'm gonna see how far it goes. Might have to run and grab some more, but I'm gonna see if I can finish this off, and then we just have to let it sit and dry before putting the trim back up. Okay, so I've let the sealant sit for about a day and a half, and for the most part it's fairly dried. Kind of where I put it on thicker, it's a little bit still tacky, but I'm just gonna put the trim back anyways. Air can still get to it, it's still gonna dry, it's still gonna cure. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do the window trim first. I'll get that up, and then I'll probably fix the OSB that I tore off, and then put all the trim in along the bottom of the wall. Okay. Yeah, so that stuff's on there pretty good, pretty dry. So these have been really easy to put back up. The one nice thing is when I pulled them off, some of the brad nails were left in here, so I just cut them off with my linesman pliers. And putting the boards back up, I can basically use the existing holes to kind of fit them back in and then just nail them in. So it's super easy this way. So just as I said that, it's going to be temperamental. Gears. Okay, so the next step in this process, we're going to tape up the bottom of the vapor barrier, get that all ready, and then put up the sheet of OSB. So I got a sheet of OSB because that was my big boo-boo. I tore off the old one and kind of mangled it, so it was inevitable given that it was stapled. So anyways, we're going to use tuck tape tape up the bottom of the vapor barrier, make sure it's nice and tight, and then we'll get that OSB on. So that was a pain in the butt. I got this cut. It was not quite 2 feet, and I bought a 2x8 sheet. So I had to rip it on the table saw, and that was just like comical, kind of sketchy because it was such a long piece, and I don't have a proper feed table. So it's very interesting, but we got a cut. Now I'm just gonna put it up. So I'm just using small screws. I don't know, like little 1-inchers. The one thing I should know too is I bought a 1/2 inch sheet and all the sheeting was 7/16, but that's all they had at Menards. I think I could have bought a full sheet, but I don't need a full sheet, so. So I think that turned out pretty good. There is a very slight gap up here that I might fill with some clear caulking at some point, but this wall's all going to be covered up with a rack eventually for lumber, so I'm not too concerned, but overall it looks pretty good. Yeah, so now we just have to put the trim back. So when putting the trim up, I'm going to use a level. I'm going to try to line it up with this other piece, but the big issue is there's a big gap already down below here. Now I'm going to have workbenches pushed into the corner, so it's not a big deal, but again, for someone with OCD like me, it's drives me nuts. But I think I'm just gonna tack that, do the other end with the level, and then go back and try to hit where all the studs are. It's a tight space. So this is one of the older pieces. There was a little bit of mildew on it, so I sprayed it down with that concrobium mold spray. Let it sit a little bit, but I'm just gonna nail it in. The only way to make this so it doesn't have mold on it or mildew eventually is probably to seal it completely, but it's trim, it's a shop. If I have to replace it every so many years, whatever, purely for aesthetics, so. Oh, this is the last piece. You have no idea how this feels. All done. Well, there you have it, folks. I'm all done. So we did all the sealing, we put all the trim back in place. We're ready to move on from this project. First of all though, I'm gonna give you a little tour of the trim, show you how it looks. Also the chaos that has ensued in here. So that will be the next step after this, is cleaning up and organizing a little bit. So let's give you a little tour. I can't say it's the prettiest job, but it's there and it's something. So here we go. So you want to see a little bit of chaos? You can see behind me. There's wood everywhere. Do a little bit of a pan. So the next step now that all the sealing's done is cleaning up and organizing, because as you can tell, it's a little messy in here, just a little bit. Well folks, there you have it. I hope you like this video. I hope you learned something from it. Maybe you learned that you never want to do trim or air sealing in your garage. Kidding aside though, I'm glad I did it. I think it'll help keeping this place a little bit warmer, and then also eliminating that water issue that we had. So if I don't have any more water coming in and I don't have any more drafts, I think this place should be a little bit warmer overall and drier obviously. So that would be mission accomplished if that happens. We'll see though. Anyways, I'm gonna get to organizing, so I'm gonna leave you guys. Again, hope you like this episode. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time. Thank you.